Hello and thank you for joining me on another fragrance video. As always, I've got a bit lax with doing these. It's probably been 4 months or so since I last did a fragrance video. So I've got a bumper video for you this time. We're going to look at my favourite summer fragrances for 2020. Now these fragrances I'll say aren't in really any particular order, and there's no real new ones here. There are fragrances that have been on the market for quite some time. Before we kick things off, I'm just going to go through some honourable mentions though. So a couple of fragrances, or 3 fragrances in actual fact, that very nearly made this list but just missed out for various reasons. The first one is a new release that came out this year, and it is Acqua di Gio Profondo by the house of Giorgio Armani. Absolutely fantastic summer fragrance, really does build on that Acqua di Gio DNA. Fantastic, would certainly be in this top 10 list, except for the fact that I don't actually own a bottle. I've had a sample. I got a decant from Mags Frags, another YouTuber. Very fantastic fragrance. I've just not got around to buying it as yet because lockdown, shops have closed, and I tend to still buy in store rather than online, which is something that's probably costing me more than it needs to, and something I'll change. But certainly Acqua di Gio Profondo would be in this list if I owned it, but as of yet I don't. It will be coming soon, and I'm certainly going to buy it once I get a chance now the shops have opened again. The other 2 honourable mentions I just wanted to cover off as well. One that I reviewed earlier this year. It is a 2020 release, and it is Stronger With You Freeze from Emporio Armani, and it's flanker to the Stronger With You range of fragrances from that line, but really lightened up, freshened, made a sort of great summery fragrance. So that's another one to mention. Didn't quite make the cut with this list. And the third one I also want to cover off as well, and again I've covered this in the past in previous videos, but it is Polo Red from, not Polo Red, sorry, 360 Red from Perry Ellis. Another fragrance which does smell a lot like Acqua di Gio, but a bit spicy, a bit different. Didn't make the list because I think it's probably been done to death, so I wanted to do something different. But you can see a theme there, an Acqua di Gio theme with those fragrances I've just mentioned. But anyway, let's crack on. And start with this fragrance in front of you. It's from Jean Paul Gaultier, and it's called Superman, or Oh Fresh Man Superman. This has been out in various different guises over the years. So it was Popeye in 2016, this bottle's from 2017, there was an 18 release, there's probably been releases since then from this line, and it's a really sort of summery fragrance, but maybe leans more towards spring possibly, but I still like it as summer fragrance. All of those ones we just mentioned, the Popeye, Superman, etc., they are all the same fragrance, it's just have different bottles and different marketing each year. And what you get from this is a very youthful scent. Has a very bubblegum vibe, but certainly very pleasant. I would say, as I say, it's youthful, so probably does suit somebody in the 20s rather than somebody in, say, the 30s or 40s. But I like it, and I'm in my 30s, and certainly one to look out for. And you can probably get it for a reasonable price now because it's been around a while. Speaking of fragrances that have been out for a while, we then move on to this chap here, and it's L'Homme from Yves Saint Laurent. Now this came out, I believe off the top of my head, around 2006. So it's been around for, well, 14 years now, but still a very good fragrance. It's the original fragrance in the L'Homme line, which then brought out, Yves La Nuit de l'Homme, and there's all the other fragrances on this line. But this is the original. It's the more basic, I would say, overall, but definitely one of the more effective fragrances. And unlike the stronger, more amped winter fragrances like La Nuit de l'Homme, this doesn't suffer from longevity issues, because even though it's been around for a long time, I don't think this has been heavily reformulated like some of the other fragrances in this line. What do you get from this fragrance? Well, you get a kind of old school summery fragrance, and it's light but it has a sort of slightly spiciness to it. But one of those fragrances that you could probably wear for any occasion, will not offend anyone in any situation, does smell very nice. And as I say, it's been out for a while, but still one worth having in your collection. I've not got much of this one left, so I probably will be buying a bottle again at some point soon. Next up is another fragrance that, like the first one on this list, Superman, this fragrance also came out in 2017, although it was later in the year. It's Dunhill Icon Racing Green. Now Racing Green relates to the colour of the bottle that you'll see there, which is British Racing Green. Colour that was adorned on the cars in British motorsport back in, probably going back to the 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. What is this fragrance? What's a flanker to the Dunhill Icon range, but this is the more summery fragrance. I mean, it is categorised as a woody aromatic, but it does have a sort of airy, light feeling. I get sort of fruits with this as well. There's a definite, distinct pear element to it, but with a sort of a dirty edge to it, if that makes sense. So clean, but has a slight muskiness to that fruity pear as well. I mean, if you smell it, you'll get what I mean. But anyway, that's the next one on this list. Okay, now this one I've probably banged on quite a bit over the years. And as you can see, I've got quite a way through this bottle. It's Versace Pour Homme. Came out again over a decade ago. Off the top of my head, I think it was 2009. Really great, crisp, clean, soapy fragrance. Smells absolutely brilliant. Will work in all situations, except for it does have one minor flaw, and that is the longevity is not fantastic on this. But purely as a scent, this has to be in the top 10 because it just smells fantastic. If you smell this fragrance, you'll know exactly what I mean. And it's also, as well, relatively cheap to purchase, and that's something that I do pride myself on my channel, providing cheap fragrances that all are good quality. So this is one definitely have on your list if you've not got it already. And as I say, great summer fragrance. Coincidentally, the next one on this list is also a 2017 release. I've reviewed this quite recently. Probably my favourite fragrance from the house of Davidoff currently. I was a big fan of the original Cool Water. This is a flanker, but it takes it in a different direction. You don't really get masses of the Cool Water DNA shining through. This is very much, I would say, a fragrance in its own right. And one of the noses behind this fragrance is Francis Kurkdjian. Probably not pronouncing his name right, but he's a perfumer who has his own niche house, but he also is the guy behind the bomb that is La Mole from Jean Paul Gaultier. Now this is nothing like that. It is very much a summer fragrance, very much with a grapefruit note. I think that's the main note with this one. Fantastic fragrance. Actually, to say it's inexpensive, does also have great longevity and very respectable projection as well. So one to look out for. Okay, moving swiftly on, we come on to a fragrance that when it was released, I was incredibly dubious of. I thought I would never buy this. This would never feature in my collection. I got it as a gift. Started wearing it as you do, and I've come to absolutely love this fragrance. The reason why I was so dubious of it, and the reason why I didn't think I would buy it, is because when it hit the market, it did seem like a bit of a pointless release. In the respect that this fragrance, which is Prada Luna Rosa Carbon, it is eerily similar to Dior Sauvage. Certainly in the opening you do get a similar note of that ambroxan. That is the key point of Sauvage, but let's take nothing away from this fragrance. It is very much a creation in its own right. Once it dries down, it becomes something different, and it just comes into their own. So it makes this list of summer fragrances. It's one that I've come to enjoy, and it's one I've also come to enjoy more than I enjoy Sauvage, which admittedly is a fragrance I have something of a love-hate relationship with, but this, I don't have the hate for it. I just have the love. It's like Sauvage, better in my opinion. So definitely one to look out for. If you don't want to buy Sauvage and smell like every other dude in the world currently smells, this one will hit you with the same vibe, but also have something a little bit different. When I reviewed this fragrance earlier in the year, I think I possibly said at the time that it was the best cheap fragrance on the market. It's L'Homme Ideal Cologne from Gilliland, and this stuff just smells absolutely fantastic. It is a bit synthetic, I will admit, but take nothing away, it's an absolutely fantastic scent. Very creamy, very nice, just a lovely, lovely scent. I mean, I'm not sure if it is a summer fragrance per se, but I certainly think it will work well when the heat is up without being too hot. Certainly in a British summer where you've got moderate heat without being, cloying and sweating. This is a nice fragrance. Everybody will enjoy it. I'm not sure that the longevity is exactly fantastic, but it's certainly respectable. And this bottle cost me 16 quid from TK Maxx. Yes, 16 quid. So virtually giving it away. It is only a 50 ml, but I'm telling you, bang for buck, this is probably the best fragrance I've ever bought in terms of the value that you get for the low outlay. Great fragrance, had to make this list. Now we move on to the big hitters, the top 3 fragrances in this summer list. And admittedly, all 3 of these fragrances are more nighttime fragrances, more sort of blue fragrances, if that makes sense. Number 3 is Y Eau de Parfum from Yves Saint Laurent. Now, this is a flanker to Y, which came out the year before this. This is a 2018 release, Y came out in 2017. Now, Y was widely criticised as being quite a generic, pointless fragrance. But this flanker really made up for it. It is a fantastic fragrance, refreshing, very refreshing fragrance. Smells brilliant, has fantastic longevity, and is an absolute compliment getter. You really can't go wrong with this one. I won't really break down what it smells like because I will be doing a separate review of this at some stage, so do please look out for that if possible. But yeah, number 3 on this list, it is a real big hitter, and it's Y Eau de Parfum from YSL. Another fragrance been around for a while, but another massive puncher, certainly for a fresher summer fragrance. Again, it's in the blue nighttime summer range, as I've just mentioned with the last one. It's Homme Dylan Blue from Versace. Now, a lot of people don't realise that this is actually a flanker of a fragrance we mentioned earlier, which is Homme. But this takes in a slightly different direction. It's darker. It's, as I say, more nightly, if that nightly is a word, if that makes sense. And again, it's one of those fragrances that is heavy on the compliment factor, if that's what you go for. I like fragrances just because I like smelling them. Compliments don't mean much, but they're always a bonus. And I will be doing a video at some point which delves into how compliments work, because it isn't just a case of that fragrance smells fantastic and people fall at your feet. It's not that simple. But anyway, that's a video for another time. Weirdly, this fragrance does remind me of sort of fizzy lemonade. Can't explain why, but that's what it reminds me of. But again, it's another fragrance that's good for this time of year. And lastly but not leastly, number 1 on this list. Now, I did say at the outset that these aren't really in any order, but certainly the last 2 we've mentioned and this one are the top 3. And overall, I think this is the best of the bunch. If I had to have a signature fragrance now, this would be that scent. For a long time, I wore the original Acqua di Gio, and that seems a bit dated now and a little bit weak because it has been reformulated quite a few times. But this bad boy, Profumo, came out in 2016. This, in my opinion, is numero uno of all fragrances in the designer market. And what can we say about it? Well, it just takes that original Acqua di Gio DNA, which was so classy and so good for so many years, but just adds to it. It's richer, it's spicier, it has a, dare I say, a more masculine edge to it than the original. It's just an absolutely lovely fragrance. I mean, if you've not smelt this one, and you probably have, I really think you do need to get your nose on it because you can't go wrong with this one, guys. Absolutely fantastic. As I said at the outset, I do like Profondo, the new release, which is more aquatic than this one. Probably a little bit more summer daytime, where this is certainly more summer evening, very dressed up. You know, if you're going out for a few drinks while you're on holiday, or you know, you had friends round for, say, an evening al fresco meal out in the garden, well, it's just starting to cool down a little bit in the summer. Well, this certainly fits the bill. Anyway, that's all for now. That's my 10 summer fragrances for 2020. As I say, not a great deal of new releases on there. Probably the only 2 that came close were Profondo, as we mentioned, and Strong Review Freeze, but they didn't quite make the list for a couple of reasons I mentioned at the outset. But I certainly feel this is a strong list. Do comment below of any other fragrances for this summer that you think are worthwhile, that you'd like me to try out. I'll certainly try and get my nose on them where I can. And as always, you know, you tuning in and watching these videos is very much appreciated. If you can watch my other videos, that would be appreciated as well. Anyway, that's all from me for now. Thank you.